Where does your favorite NFL team rank after 3 weeks of the 2024 NFL season? We're entering week 4. It's time to give you my NFL power rankings from the worst, number 32, to the best, the number 1 team in the NFL, entering week 1. If that sounds good, spike the like button. Let me know in the comments your opinion on my power rankings. Where am I right? Where am I wrong? Am I too high on a team? Am I too low on a team? Where am I accurate? Let me know in the comments. I love to hear everyone's opinion, especially on your favorite team. Let me know if I'm right, man, or call me out if I'm wrong. I love the conversation. I'm not even kidding, bro. And subscribe to the channel if you haven't already for more NFL power rankings each and every week. I give you my honest take on every single team. No other channel on this platform does it like the BLV. So make sure to subscribe, bro. Let's get started with the number 32 team. We have a fresh, new, last place team because the Carolina Panthers decided to actually play the better quarterback on their team. But there is a team right now that is not playing the best quarterback on their team. They showed up on prime time, and yes, they won a game this year, but they got absolutely embarrassed. And I'm embarrassed right now to be a New England Patriots fan. For the first time in my life, bro, I can't walk outside and wear a Patriot color, a Patriot shirt, a Patriot sweater, a Patriot, I don't care, bandana. I can't wear nothing with the Patriot logo and feel proud about my football team because we absolutely suck. Did you watch that Thursday night football game? I don't care we're 1-2. I don't strictly go off records, bro. Part of the power rankings here is how is this team going to play for the rest of the season? And if I were to say this team versus this team, who's going to be favored in the game? The Patriots are probably going to be the underdog in every single opponent they face. There's one game they play coming up against the Miami Dolphins that I think they have a chance to win. But that's because Miami has their backup quarterback. Okay? The Patriots are playing Jacoby Brissett, who is not very good, who's scared to throw the ball down the field, who every time he gets pressure, it looks like he was broken in half like Mankind when The Undertaker threw him off the Hell in a Cell. We need to play Drake May. I beg you. Gerard Mayo, please do the right thing. Give me some entertainment. I need Drake May. This guy is going to be a stud. Are you watching Jaden Daniels on Monday Night Football? Provide your fan base some hope because the offensive line doesn't give us any hope. And I understand you don't want to put your rookie quarterback behind the worst offensive line in the league, and there's no doubt it's the worst offensive line in the league, okay? But it's going to get healthier at the guard position, I would assume, the Patriots on the offensive line. The left tackle's a disaster. I don't know why they're not going out and making a trade. They're not signing anyone. I understand you want a high draft pick. I get it. You're trying to rebuild this thing. But don't allow your quarterbacks to be absolutely berated by pass rush week after week, rep after rep, snap after snap. Like, sign someone. Like, really, bro? Come on. These wide receivers, Demario Douglas had a good game against the Jets. That was a promising sign. We've seen Hunter Henry have good games. We've seen Ramondre have good games. There's pieces there. But this team still lacks a number 1 receiver. It really lacks an explosive option at wide receiver. It doesn't have anybody that demands attention on the offense. The scheme's whatever. It's hard to tell, to be honest with you, because the O-line is so bad. The quarterback is not very good. Bottom 3 in the league. Skill positions are not great. I wonder what it would look like with Alex Van Pelt if he had 1 or 2 pieces to work with, but he really doesn't. Right? Our best player on our offense isn't even playing his proper position, Michael Onwenu, and he's struggling at right tackle because of it. And then you look at the defense, and the defense, yes, was phenomenal early in the year. It was great against the Bengals. It was pretty good against the Seahawks. Not bad. A little bit disappointing, but they've regressed with each and every week, and I think that's because people are starting to notice the flaws, the cracks on the D-line, the cracks at linebacker, now that Jawan Bentley and Christian Barmore are out for the season. So the secondary is good, but we were not equipped to play the Jets. on Thursday night. We didn't come out with any creativity, any flair, any sort of taking, Aaron Rodgers' first read away, trying to throw him off balance, throwing blitzes at him. Like, we were just playing vanilla. I don't understand it, man. So the Patriots, I just think maybe people will have them a little higher than this. I think for the rest of the year, this is the worst team in the NFL. Will they probably win like 3 or 4 games? Yeah. But maybe they move up if Drake May gets in there. But right now, I don't see the path for Drake May getting in there because this entire franchise, all the beat reporters are scared in their boots to play a grown man in the NFL. Come on, bro. Seriously, what are we talking about? All right, at number 31, the Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins. Mike McDaniel, what are you doing? Okay, this team, I don't like the construction of this team. I have to give the defense credit. I think the defense has actually played as hard as they can. They're not the best unit in the league, but they're playing hard. They played well against Seattle. They were put in a lot of bad spots in that game. And I actually thought they gave their offense a chance, many chances to make that game competitive. But they've got Skylar Thompson, who is not an NFL starter, maybe not even an NFL backup, playing quarterback. He gets injured. Now you've got Snoop Tyler Huntley in there, who's a Pro Bowl quarterback, so we'll see how that goes. The offensive line, garbage. Like, if the Patriots aren't the worst offensive line in the league, this is the worst offensive line in the league. You see a trend in my power ranking so far? It's so bad that they can't even throw the ball to Tyreek Hill. How bad of an offensive line do you have to be that Devon Achane can't get explosive gains on the ground and Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle can't catch the football? How bad do you have to be on the offensive line? And I continuously saw Skylar get his absolute back broken, bro. Like, he was getting smashed by the Seahawks. And then the defense, like I said, it's fine. It's playing hard like New England, but they're just not quite dominant enough to just win a game with the inopportune, horrifically looking offensive line and offense that Miami is currently throwing out there. So Miami is, even with Tua, they would be in the bottom 10. But without Tua and with the current form of their backup quarterback situation, it is gross, bro. So Miami is bad. I think the Patriots could beat Miami right now. At number 30, the Jacksonville Jags. Now, this is a weird one because Jacksonville did get their butts kicked on Monday night, but it was Josh Allen going nuclear. Like, pretty much every team in the league would get their ass kicked by Josh Allen when he's at absolute peak mode. Like, bro was in 07 Brady mode in that game. And by the way, Josh Allen is the only quarterback since 07 Brady to be playing this efficient of football through 3 weeks in the NFL, which is pretty outstanding. He is on pace to win the MVP. He should have won the MVP last year. I said it so many times, bro. This is about Jacksonville, but I'm just saying, we can't just take that one result and say, like, Jacksonville's the worst team in the league, because any team would have gotten absolutely lambasted by that Bills team, the way that they looked on Monday night. Now, that being said, Jacksonville at 30. Trevor Lawrence sucks. He sucks. Stop. I see you. You're going to be typing. Oh, Mitch, they don't block. His receivers are hurt. No Evan Ingram. They're playing the wrong running back. Doug Peterson, Press Taylor. Shut up, bro. He sucks. Stop. If Mac Jones is even in the conversation to start for this team, what does that say about Trevor Lawrence? They just paid the man $5 million kajillion billion to play quarterback, okay? Okay? And the defense, they're playing way too much man coverage, bro. I don't know what Nielsen is doing. He is getting shredded. We knew that was going to be a problem against Buffalo, but they're playing way too much man coverage. The run defense has regressed week by week. Now they've got an injury to Aluakon, who's their heart and soul of the defense. Huge injury for them. Their offensive line can't block. Their receivers, Brian Thomas, I actually like how he looks, but everything else is not inspiring. Christian Kirk looks like he's taking a step back. Evan Ingram's injured. Gabe Davis is a waste of space. Who would have thought not me, that you remove Gabe Davis from the Bills and they actually get better. I've been saying that for 3 years. The guy sucks. That's how you know Jacksonville should have fired their GM 8 years ago. Come on, bro. This team just feels disjointed. They feel like they're not that bad in terms of talent. It's the fact that they just feel like they're in shambles, like they're lost, okay? So that's why they're at number 30. At number 29, the Las Vegas Raiders. Bro, I trust the Raiders every week to come through, and they get me with the Ravens. I'm on the bandwagon. I'm jumping up and down. I'm on the Minshew Jorts bandwagon, right? And then all of a sudden, they come back and they get their absolute asses kicked against the Carolina Panthers. How can I treat you as a serious entity in the NFL when you get destroyed by the Red Rifle? You make the Red Rifle look like Peyton Manning in 2013. Like, are you kidding me? You made Adam Thielen look like Jordy Nelson in 2014. What are we doing here? How did the Raiders get absolutely wrecked by the Panthers 1 week after beating the Ravens? Like, can this team have any sort of consistency? I just can't trust them. Now they want to make a change at quarterback 1 week after they were praising Gardner Minshew for how great he was. Meanwhile, they have the worst running game in the league. They can't run the ball to save their lives. Their O-line's inconsistent. Minshew's holding on to the ball too long. The defense, I don't know what's going on with certain areas of the defense. The secondary gave up way too many big plays against Andy Dalton. Malcolm Kuntz is out. That's been, definitely not great. This team, I just can't rely on the Raiders. That's why I have them at 29. I don't think they're this bad. I just feel like they're so inconsistent. I don't know what to say. At number 28, the Carolina Panthers. Yes, they moved all the way up to 28 because that's how much better Andy Dalton is than Bryce Young. I've been saying for I don't know how long now. I said CJ Stroud better than Bryce Young. People laughed. Then I said Bryce Young is too small. Then I said Bryce Young actually legitimately sucks. And people still coming in the comments saying, oh, you got to give Bryce a chance. I feel bad for Bryce. They suck. It's such a bad situation. Bro, Andy Dalton is supposed to be retired. He's rolling out there looking like 2023 Joe Flacco. The O-line is legitimate. That's why I like Carolina. I rank them at 28 now because I can trust the quarterback to go through his progressions and read the field correctly and throw an accurate pass. There's only 15 quarterbacks in the NFL that can do that. Then we've got an O-line that can actually block. So there's only 10 of them that can do that. Now for the rest of the team, Deontay Johnson's good. Adam Thielen got hurt. I think he's tore his hamstring or something, unfortunately. Bro, the white receivers are going through it this year, man. Ricky Pearsall, Cooper Kupp, Adam Thielen. Who do we got left at this point? And then you look at the defense. Carolina's defense sucks. They can't rush the passer. They have one corner. Their safeties are all right. Linebackers are all right, I guess. But they just can't get a pass rush. And their run defense is very spotty. So that's Carolina. I trust the O-line. I think Dalton helps their offense. I think they'll be kind of fun from that perspective. Maybe their run game can continue to improve. Jonathan Brooks should be back. Chuba Hubbard's been pretty decent, but that's still better than these other teams, man. The other teams suck. At number 27, the Tennessee Titans, who probably have a top 15 roster. When you look at the Titans on paper, you're like, what is wrong with this football team? You legitimately watch them sometimes, and you're like, I really like how the pass rush looks. I really like how the secondary is playing. I think they can stop the run really effectively. At other times, you're like, look at that, good plays through the running game, good plays through the passing game. And then all of a sudden, Will Levis throws the stupidest interception you've ever seen, and you're like, what just happened to this team? They're down 17-7. And that's the Tennessee Titans. I want to rank the Titans higher, but they are led by the biggest idiot that, resides in the NFL at quarterback. Is Will Levis actually kind of talented? Yes. You watch like 90% of the game, you would think he was a top half starter in the league. He's got a rocket arm. He can fit the ball into tight windows. He can make more explosive downfield throws than most quarterbacks. He can run. He's athletic. He's tough. But then his decision making, holding on the football, throwing into tight windows when it's not there, getting intercepted, reading the field wrong, staring down a receiver. There's just things about Will Levis. And then it feels like him and Callahan just do not get along. There's something wrong there. The Titans' O-line is pathetic. They stink. The defense on Tennessee, very disappointing against Malik Willis. I expected a lot better. But they have an opportunity to play against the Miami Dolphins, a team that they beat last year in the same scenario. Monday Night Football in Miami. It was Will Levis's best game of his career. Can they bounce back? At number 26, the Chicago Bears. Now, the Bears, I think actually, again, like the Titans, I think they're more talented than their placement on my power rankings. I think the Bears have talent. I think they are poorly coached on offense. Extremely poorly coached. Why with a rookie quarterback against the worst run? I don't know why no one's talking about this. Can somebody please update the NFL media? I have not listened to one single podcast. Everyone's like, Shane Waldron sucks. He's fraudulent, blah, blah, blue, blah, blue. Bro, can you talk about how he let Caleb Williams throw the ball 52 fucking times? Why are we not talking about this? Like, Caleb Williams makes like 5 insane throws every game. But then he also makes like 7 really terrible throws. And then like he's missing passes that he should not miss. He's terrible throwing the ball down the field. And he's late sometimes, resulting in interceptions. That one interception was so bad. And they refuse to run the ball. They don't run the ball. The O-line, not very good. Receiving court, Cole Kmet showed up. How do you have all those yards and you don't score any points? They're just so soft, this team on offense. And then defensively, I think they're pretty solid. I like their defense. They did great against Anthony Richardson, but they did not stop Jonathan Taylor. That's why they lost. When you play the Colts, Matt Eberflus, the number one guy you got to stop is Jonathan Taylor. Make Anthony Richardson throw because he can't. The Bears are just a mess. I don't understand the Bears. They're talented, but they're soft on offense. They don't run the ball for some reason. They don't help their rookie quarterback. Their defense is good. I like their defense. It just feels like an offense that can't get their stuff together, man. So at number 26, the Bears. At number 25, the Indianapolis Colts. I just brought them up. They beat the Bears, so I'm forced to put them above the Bears. I think the Colts suck. I think they suck, but they beat the Bears. So I'm forced to put them above, to be fair. And they did barely lose to the Texans, a team that I have in the top 10. And they were embarrassed by the Packers, but the Packers also embarrassed the Titans even worse. So I look at the Colts and I say their results maybe aren't as bad as I thought. And Anthony Richardson's terrible, like legitimately really bad. He can make some really nice throws at times. He's got that strong arm. He's really athletic. He's a big dude. He's got to gain some experience, but people just think like, oh, Anthony Richardson, he's just going to, show up in the NFL with 12 starts in his entire life playing the sport, and he's just going to be Josh Allen. Good luck, bud. Bro can't even throw an accurate pass. And then he makes some of the dumbest decisions you've ever seen. That interception in the end zone was pathetic. The defense blows. I don't understand how the Bears, again, they look at the stat sheet against the Colts, who have given up like 7 yards per carry. And they're like, we're just going to throw 50 times. Despite, having a rookie quarterback and a bad O-line. The Colts, the best thing about their defense is their pass rush. Their linebackers are pretty good as well. Their corners suck. They can't cover. They allowed over 300 yards to the Bears' inept passing game, and their run defense is pathetic. There's no saving this defense. The offense can run the ball. That's about it. I like Shane Steichen as a coach. But between Richardson and the defense, this team is not winning very many games. At number 24, the Denver Broncos. Now, people are going to be like, Mitch, you said the Broncos absolutely suck. They still suck. But the difference is the Broncos are ran like a professional program and a professional football team. The rest of these teams, they're a bunch of jabronis. They've got problems at quarterback. They can't block. Their defenses suck. Something's wrong with them in a major degree. The Broncos, there's nothing that's really awful about this team. Bo Nix has had awful moments. Last game he improved against the Bucs. I got to give them credit. The O-line has had awful moments. It played its best game against Tampa. I have to give them credit. The defense, honestly, is pretty good. The defense, I think right now is playing the most underrated of any defense I've seen. Now, have they played the Steelers? Have they played a beat-up Bucs O-line? Have they played Seattle, who's been a bit up and down on offense? Yes, okay. They haven't played juggernaut offenses, but there's not that many. I think the Broncos are well schemed on defense. They've got one really good corner, which helps. I think they've got a rotation and a deep D-line, up front. They don't really give up a ton of big runs, a ton of big passes, and they provide pressure and dynamic and creative blitzes up front. I like how Denver is playing defense, and I think you mix that in with a young quarterback who's at least accurate, knows where to go with the ball, doesn't beat himself, and a consistent team that wants to run the ball and has a quality O-line and a coach that can manage the game. That, to me, is the 24th best team. It's nothing about the talent. The talent is really not there in many areas of this team. It has everything to do with they kind of understand what they are. They don't beat themselves. They stick around. They hang around. And they're competitive. And that's the difference between the Broncos and a team like the Dolphins. I don't know, there's not a lot separating right now, but the Broncos, at least, they kind of know how to play in this underdog role. At number 23, I've got the Cleveland Browns. I don't know where to put this team. They beat Jacksonville, great. They get killed by Dallas, fantastic. And in week 3, they lose to the freaking Giants. They were 6.5-point favorites at home. They lose to the Giants. I don't want to hear any more from these Browns fans. Guys, I love you, but can you please quit the drugs that you've been taking while watching Deshaun Watson? I understand you're Browns fans, so you do not know what quarterback play is, good or bad. I get it, okay? Please stop. He sucks. He's so bad. Jameis Winston is a legitimate upgrade over Deshaun Watson. The O-line also blows, mostly because of injuries. They need David Njoku desperately. Amari Cooper played well last week. The defense, disappointing. The defense is supposed to be elite. You can't let Daniel Jones be comfortable. If you want to beat the Giants, you got to get to Daniel Jones. You got to force mistakes from Daniel Jones. And they didn't do that at all. Daniel Jones had a pretty good, productive game, right? And they were out-coached against the Giants. And they couldn't cover Malik Neighbors. That's the only thing you got to do, bro. The Browns, I don't get this team, man. I don't know where to rank them. I don't know. I feel like once they put Jameis in, they're going to be a better team, and then I'm going to have to rank them higher. I don't know what to do, man. I'm lost with this team. I don't even want to watch this team. What's interesting about the Browns? Let's be honest. At number 22, the New York Giants. This team also sucks. I mean, for the New York Giants to be at number 22 is an absolute disgrace to NFL professional football. How do we have a team like the Giants with Daniel Jones at quarterback and kind of a middling defense, probably a little bit below average, a kind of below average O-line, a below average receiving core. How are they 10 spots into my power rankings? See, this is what I'm talking about. But then you look at the results. They almost beat Washington. They probably should have beat Washington. They lost to a good Vikings team, and they beat the Browns. And they were leading in that game for a majority of the time. So, the Giants, you've just got to speak to the results at this point and say, Brian Daboll knows how to coach. They're figuring out the thing defensively. They got a ton of pressure this past week. They're finally figuring out Brian Burns, Dexter Lawrence, this front seven. I think their back end is improving with each and every game. And the offense, they're running the ball all right. They're protecting the ball. Malik Neighbors is an absolute juggernaut, stud, top, upper echelon, alpha receiver already. And that's enough. And Daniel Jones, believe it or not, is not an absolute disaster right now. So at number 22, the Giants, man, it's kind of like the Broncos. They're just well coached and they play hard. They're not very talented. They have a couple studs on offense and defense. That's about it, man. That's about it. But that's good enough in this NFL to be 22. Disgrace. At number 21, the Los Angeles Rams have half their team, and they're number 21 on my list. They just upset the Niners. Now, that was a kitchen sink game. They had to win that game. They would have been sitting at 0-3. Their season probably would have been over at that point. So they get a win. But, man, the Rams got Matthew Stafford. The Rams got Sean McVay. The Rams got Kyron Williams, who had the best game of his season, who had, I think, 5 touchdowns in 4 games already. And they've got enough, I understand that Puka and Kupp are out, but Tutu looked good in that game. Tyler Johnson, Demarcus Robinson, Kobe Parkinson, these aren't household names, but they can get the job done through the air. The O-line is still majorly suspect, but I thought they ran the ball on the Niners all right, and I felt like their pass protection was definitely improved from the week previous. There's no doubt about that. Defensively, they're pretty bad. They're pretty bad. The one area that I think they're decent is their pass rush isn't too bad, and their D-line, their run defense. Overall, the D-line. Kobe Turner, Byron Young, and the kid out of FSU in the first round, Jared Verse. The secondary is pretty bad. The linebackers are pretty awful. The safeties are not much better. But the D-line gives them a chance. Gives them a chance. But their defense is definitely not look good in the last 2 weeks. But they have played the Niners and the Cardinals. So those are 2 of the better offenses in the league. I'll just say that the Rams, they're this high despite not having Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, because they got Matthew Stafford, Sean McVay. And at the end of the day, they can win any game. They can come back. They can upset, a team like the Niners, who definitely were better for 59 minutes of the game. But the Rams just hung around and they put together a couple drives at the end and they were able to squeak it out. And you got to give them credit for that. At number 20, the Cincinnati Bengals. I understand they're 0-3. And they lost me money on Monday night. There's no doubt about that, man. Holy smokes. But, and do I hate them right now? Oh, I don't want to talk about it. But I thought the offense looked good. They didn't punt. So I lost a game. I bet on a game in which the team didn't punt and I still lost. So I feel like crap. The defense sucked. They couldn't get a single stop. The defense, you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of the Super Bowl, the Patriots against the Eagles, where I'm rooting for my team. And every time they could have got a stop, and it feels like they're in a high leverage situation and get a stop, they just couldn't get the stop. And they tried everything. They blitzed. They played man. They played zone. They couldn't stop the run. They couldn't stop the deep ball when they went to blitz. They couldn't stop the quick screen and tackle. When they had Jaden Daniels in the backfield ready to be sacked, they couldn't tackle him. Give credit to Jaden Daniels. Give credit to the plan by the Washington Commanders. Cliff Kingsbury. Terry McLaurin played a great game. Luke McCaffrey, Zach Ertz. Give them credit. But man, the Bengals defense was historically awful. So awful. The offense, I thought Burrow looked pretty good. He missed a couple throws in the game, but I thought for the most part, very composed under pressure, moved well, was accurate, went to the right place with the ball. Jamar Chase broke out in a big way. T. Higgins looked like T. Higgins to me. They were getting, plays from other people like Chase Brown and Zach Moss were both having productive carries, and on the ground, they looked pretty good. Even when Trent Brown went down, they put in Amarius Mims. They still were moving the ball and protecting Burrow. I thought they really got no edge pressure, the Commanders, in the game. And, Mike Gesicki made catches, all made catches. Yossi Voss made plays. Like, everyone was making plays on offense. So that's why I believe in them moving forward, but they've got to figure something out on defense, man. They've got to figure something out. They need to make some moves. They need to go trade for some players. They need to go sign free agents. They should be desperate to make some moves right now because this team is in a bad way. At number 19, I put the Commanders. Just because, yes, they beat the Bengals, but I honestly don't think they're this good. Just in terms of how they played on Monday night, I thought was peak performance for them for the entire year. And I'm going to get criticism from Commanders fans because they're excited. They're 2-1. I thought they should have lost the Giants. And they definitely deserve to beat the Bengals. There's no doubt about that, just for the simple fact their offense couldn't be stopped. But I just felt like that's the best that the rookie Jaden Daniels can play. I don't think he's going to play any better than that in his rookie season, right? The O-line I thought played really, really well. That was as good as I thought the O-line could play, better than I thought the O-line could play. Eckler made plays early. Brian Robinson looked the part. Zach Ertz continues to be ageless. Terry McLaurin finally showed up to the dance. Luke McCaffrey provided something. De'Ami Brown provided something. Everybody was humming in that game. It was just a special potion. Jaden Daniels was juking and jiving and making people miss left and right under pressure. He was making pinpoint, beautiful touch passes down the field. It was perfection. It's probably going to be the highlight of their season. Monday night, going into Cincinnati, taking down the Bengals. The highlight of their season. Moving forward, though, their defense has to be the worst in the league. They have really not stopped anyone all year. Now, their offense looks really good right now. And some of that is on Daniels. Some of that is on Cliff. Some of that is on Cliff, readjusting to the NFL. Remember that period at the start of every year, it feels like Cliff always is humming with his offenses. Then it slows down. But they're able to run the ball. They're able to throw the ball. They're getting deep passes now, which they weren't getting in the first couple of weeks. They took the Bengals by surprise in that regard there. So that's just how I feel is the Commanders are going to have to be this good on offense to win games because their defense is legitimately not getting any stops. So they beat the Bengals, so I put them at 19. They're 2-1, so I put them at 19. But I honestly feel like this team is just going to be a regression candidate because their offense, I just don't see how they can keep this pace up for the rest of the year. I feel like their defense is legitimately just too bad. It's just so bad. If this team had a defense, I actually would feel decent about their prospects of being, pretty wild card contender type thing, but they just don't have a defense. So at number 19, the Commanders. At number 18, the Los Angeles Chargers. The Chargers are at 18 just for the pure fact that they have a pretty decent defense right now. They're able to stop the run. And they're well coached and they play physical and they play tough and they fly around, and the O-line has played well. Herbert is their quarterback, Harbaugh is their coach, and that's really enough. They're not a super talented team. They're getting injured now, which really concerns me on the offensive line, concerns me with Herbert, concerns me on the D-line. If they're going to be injured in those areas, that's going to definitely kill their vibe for the rest of the year. But as long as this team is close to fully healthy, they're a pretty middling average team that can hang around with the majority of NFL teams right now. It's just that they don't have that superpower firepower on either side of the ball to put them over the top. So at number 18, the Chargers. I don't really have a ton to say here. I expected them to lose a tight defensive game against the Steelers. That's exactly what happened. They just couldn't out-Steeler the Steelers. It's a difficult thing to do in Pittsburgh. At number 17, the Dallas Cowboys. A team that's almost the polar opposite of the Chargers. They have more talent. They have firepower. They have explosiveness, but they don't have the grittiness. They don't have the fundamentals. They don't have the consistency in terms of run defense, the consistency in terms of running the ball, the consistency in terms of pass blocking. There's many areas of this team that are deficient, but there's also areas of this team that can carry and pull them along. That being said, they've played the Ravens, they've played the Browns, and they've played the Saints. All three teams I rank, I feel like, well, they beat the Browns, but the Saints, I was impressed with through the first 2 weeks. I think they give the Cowboys unique matchup issues. The Ravens are a top 10 team in the league with the top 5 quarterback and a really good, run defense and run offense that I said would give them issues. Now, they fought back in that game. They still got Dak Prescott. They still got CeeDee Lamb. The defense still has a good pass rush, and I feel like overall not a bad pass defense. They are just so bad. They might be the worst team in the league right now when it comes to run offense combined with run defense. And when you're that bad in those areas that allow you to control football games, you're not an above average team, despite how much talent you have in the passing game. So at number 17, the Cowboys. At number 16, the Arizona Cardinals. Cardinals weren't bad against the Lions. I thought they were a little underwhelming on offense. Kyler Murray was not able to have a doubleheader in terms of a double feature, part 2, chapter 2, from his performance against the Rams, again against the Lions. The Cardinals, their defense, I've got to give them a lot of credit. I'm rising on their defense. I think Gannon is doing a good job at putting these players in the right positions to succeed. They make timely plays. They get timely pressures, timely sacks, timely turnovers. And that's what makes me believe that combined with a very effective offense in most games, a quarterback that's really hard to prepare for, a true stud of a rookie receiver in Marvin Harrison Jr., one of the best tight ends in football in Trey McBride, a pretty unique running game led by James Conner, that in most weeks, this offense is scoring 24 plus points. If you combine that with a defense that might not be the most talented, but it's very elaborate, understands their role to be very high energy and very high octane in terms of we're going to go after it, we're going to blitz, we're going to get in passing lanes, we're going to try to jump routes, we're going to try to be big play oriented, we're going to try to force a turnover, force a negative play. That's what the Cardinals defense does, I think, really well. They're not talented, they get shredded at times, they get bullied at times on the ground and through the air, but I don't really feel like this is a bad defense. I think they're actually playing pretty well. I thought they played well against the Lions. They just don't have a lot of talent. So schematically, good on defense. Offense, talented and schematically good. I just wish I saw a little bit more from the Lions game on offense. At number 15, the Atlanta Falcons, who I honestly wanted to put a little bit higher, but they're only 1-2, so it's kind of difficult for me to do it and justify it from a record standpoint. But I liked how the Falcons have played in the last 2 weeks. They've played legitimate teams, and the Chiefs at home and the Eagles on the road. They're 1-1. And if you're a Falcons fan, I think that's positive, right? I think they've been able to run the ball pretty effectively in both games. I would say more so the Eagles game. I feel like when they needed to move the ball down the field in both games through the air, they were able to. They just got a little bit unfortunate. They got fortunate against the Eagles, and they got unfortunate against the Chiefs in terms of, the refs missed a huge call in the end zone on Kyle Pitts, a pass interference clear as day, and then they just weren't able to kind of make that thing happen. I think their defense has been well coached. It doesn't feel like they're ever really getting gashed. A lot of it, I would say, is talent-driven. They're getting pushed in the run game by the Eagles, or they're getting, just outmaneuvered by Patrick Mahomes or Rashee Rice, or potentially, too long of extended plays, things like that. But I think Matt Judon is playing well. I like how their secondary is playing, led by Simmons and Bates at safety, but Hughes has stood out in a positive way. AJ Terrell is balling. I really like Caden Ellis. He's a good football player, man. So I think the Falcons defense is solid. I don't think they're good. I don't think they're bad. I think they're solid right now. Their offense, I just wish we would see a little bit more, just a little bit more, like a little bit more explosiveness, a little bit more control. It feels like they've been trailing these last couple of games. They haven't quite been able to take hold. So the Falcons feel like a decent team, just not quite good enough to beat the best teams consistently. At number 14, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Bucs, honestly, I want to put behind the Falcons due to their injuries, but I feel like the Bucs are just more proven, more consistent. I kind of understand what they are. Baker, I think, is pretty good. He played poorly against the Broncos, but I think he's pretty good. I love Evans and Godwin. I like, how Irving's playing as a running back. They're definitely struggling with the missing right tackle right now, and I thought they were very underwhelming from a offensive standpoint. And I think what I noticed in that game the most was that they're such a high leverage-oriented team. Third down is so important for this team. Red zone is so important for this team. They have the capacity to beat any team or lose to any team based on those high leverage downs and scenarios in games. There will be times where they're just on fire on third down offensively. They can't be stopped. There's times on, other games where they'll be pushed around and they can't quite get that stop on third down or in the red zone that gives them the edge. Their defense, definitely underwhelming from a talent standpoint right now in terms of the injuries. The offense, I think, needs to be able to consistently move the ball and score points for them to win right now. We'll see if they're able to do that against a tough Eagles team at home. This is a big potential bounce back spot. I don't really love it on paper with the injuries they currently have, but they have had the Eagles number, so that's something to look at. They're definitely a team that feels like they can still make the playoffs. It's just a matter of the injuries. At number 13, the New Orleans Saints, a disappointing loss to the Eagles after a ton of hype in the first 2 weeks. The Saints' offensive line injuries maybe caught up to them a little bit. Eric McCoy going to be out for a substantial period of time. One of the best, if not the best, center in the league so far this year. Derek Carr definitely feels that interior pressure. It felt like their run game was not able to get anything going with the Eagles setting the edge firmly and just not allowing them to break big plays with Alvin Kamara. And then Derek Carr just was not able to kind of overcome the lack of a running game and the pressure that he was getting from Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, and company. The other side, the Saints defense was pushed around. I felt like the Eagles were able to control the game. If we're not for the Eagles, failing on fourth down, missing a field goal, Nick Sirianni being their coach, it felt like the Eagles were going to run away with that game. But the Saints were still able to make that competitive and pretty close. It was just like the scoreboard, I don't think, indicated how much the Saints were actually kind of exposed in that game. So I think the Saints will be okay from a competition standpoint. I just wonder if teams now kind of know how they're going to play. If they can't run the ball, it's not going to go too well for their offense. If the defense, can't be put into pass down situations where they're really good in coverage and they win in coverage very often and they're thrown off balance due to maybe getting pushed around in the running game or effective first and second down play calling from the other team, their defense can maybe be giving up some long drives and some time of possession, which then corresponds with an offense that kind of needs that to be successful. So at number 13, the Saints. At number 12, the Seattle Seahawks, who are undefeated at 3-0. The Seahawks just haven't played many good teams yet. So we're going to see how they play on Monday night against the Lions. They've beaten the Broncos with a rookie quarterback in his first ever start at home. They beat the Patriots in New England in overtime, which is not too impressive. And they beat the Miami Dolphins with Skylar Thompson and a terrible offensive line. So they've taken advantage of their opponents and they've done what they should do, which is beat inferior teams. I love how Geno's playing. I think low-key Geno is a top 10 quarterback this year. He did throw a couple picks against the Dolphins, but I think for the most part, he's been very accurate, very precise. He's moving well. He's throwing the ball well. He's played well. The O-line is their biggest weakness on offense. Their receivers are dynamic. Kenneth Walker has not been playing. Zach Charbonnet has been stepping up. They ran the ball better against Miami, I felt, than they did against New England or Denver in the first couple of weeks. That's improved. That is nice to see. Lockett had a quiet game in the week previously. He steps up a little bit in week 3. Jackson Smith and Jigba, huge in week 2. DK Metcalf has been one of the best receivers in the league so far this year. And then on defense, they have been good, but I don't think they've been convincing. I think that teams have been able to, at times, run the ball on them. I think they're better against the pass. I think their pass rush is deceptively really strong. But I think that they've been a little hit and miss in the pass game as well. More so in the running game, though, which has kind of kept their defense out of those Mike McDonald elaborate blitzing pressure package scenarios. If you can stay out of those and be slow but steady on offense against Mike McDonald's Seahawks defense, you can move the ball. But if you're not able to run it on Seattle, you're going to be in a world for hurt because they can come with a pass rush and they can cover. So Seattle at number 12. At number 11, the Pittsburgh Steelers, best defense in the league, just outside the top 10. Fields has been better than I would have thought. Their O-line beat up, but they still persevere. Najee Harris, Jalen Warren, Cordell Patterson, a trio of running backs. Patterson, who would have thunk it, coming through. I think that this team, again, similar to Seattle, hasn't played too much competition. The Chargers, like people will say that was their biggest competition so far. I don't think the Chargers are a very good team. I think that they're very well coached and they've got a good quarterback, but he was also kind of pretty beat up in that game. So I expected the Steelers to win their first 3 games based on who they were playing. Denver, right? Atlanta, although Atlanta's not bad. I'll give them credit for the Atlanta win, especially in Atlanta, but that was an Atlanta team, Kirk Cousins coming off an Achilles in week 1 with a lot of new pieces. So again, even that was advantageous for them. Playing Atlanta now would be a little bit different. But I have to say their defense is dominant. Their defense will keep them in every game. They need to figure out how to run the ball more efficiently, but I felt like Justin Fields, again, played well against the Chargers. So that's nice to see. He's keeping this job. You could argue they might be like number 10. Some people might have them at number 9 or something like that. Based on their record, that's fair. I think based on when you talk about preseason expectation of them being flirting with the wild card spot, when you talk about who they've played, level of competition, the offense overall being a little lackluster, I think there's reason why they're only 11 for me. But I can also see the case for, it looks like they're going to make the playoffs because they've got such a strong defense. They're well coached. It feels like you know what you're going to get with the Steelers each and every week. This is going to be a tricky game against the Colts. It's on the road. It's against a team that beat them last year. We'll see how that one goes. At number 10, the New York Jets, who I was extremely impressed with on Thursday night. Their defense finally played with speed, played with passion, played with hunger, played with toughness. They dominated the Patriots in every way, shape, or form. In that game, they outgained them by like 300 yards. Aaron Rodgers looked mythical. He looked like MVP Aaron Rodgers. He was moving. He was accurate. He was slicing. He was dicing. He was extending plays. He was in the pocket, audibling. He was creating. Aaron Rodgers looked elite in that game. The O-line is good. Their run game is legitimately good. Braylon Allen and Breece Hall are arguably the best running back combo, if not even arguable in the NFL right now. Garrett Wilson's still not really on track with Rodgers, but he's been making some plays. That throw that Rodgers made to Garrett Wilson for that touchdown was exquisite. Mike Williams seemingly getting a little bit healthier. Alan Lazard contributing. Tyler Conklin, his best game in week 3. This is an offense that's trending up, and this looks like an offense that will be top half for the rest of the year. If Rodgers continues to play like this is a legitimate contender, because if their defense can just get a little bit better against the run consistently, like how they looked against New England, they're going to be a really tough team to beat because their secondary is tough to throw on, and their offense is going to move the ball and control the game. And I just felt like that was the word, control. They were in such control against the Patriots. They looked like a good team. They brought it. So that was nice to see. At number 9, the San Francisco 49ers. I don't know what to do with the 49ers right now. Obviously, you guys know I'm high on the Niners when they're healthy, but the Niners are like really beat up. Like Debo, McCaffrey, Hargrave might be out for the year. Debo McCaffrey should be back at some point. Kittle got hurt. Will he be back this week? We'll see. But Brock Purdy, I have to say, Brock Purdy played like a top quarterback in the league against the Rams. They lost. But that's a very promising sign to see him play at that level without the players that were missing the game. And I think that's something that Niners fans can hang their hat on, that Shanahan and Purdy on offense can get them through this tough stretch because their defense has not played well this year. I thought they showed well against the Jets for stretches, same as the Vikings game, but overall, they have just not consistently been able to do anything at a high level. Cover on third down, pass rush in key situations, or even stop the run. All areas have had good and bad moments, and it's too inconsistent. Their defense needs to step up moving forward. They need to figure something out. Maybe it's a change in philosophy in terms of simple over creative. Maybe they need to get more creative with what they do up front in their pass rush. Maybe they need to change their fronts, their formations. Something needs to change defensively. I think that's their biggest flaw. People are blaming Shanahan in my chat, as they always do. Well, I think more so has to do with the defense, because the offense, again, 400 yards of offense against the Rams. Without Kittle, Debo, Ayuk is fat, not playing well. Jawan Jennings, unbelievable. Jordan Mason, he's played well. The O-line played very well against the Rams. Purdy played very well against the Rams. Their offense had 400 yards against the Vikings. Did they turn it over a couple times? Yes. Was that mostly on Purdy? He didn't play well that week. Yes. I wouldn't be too concerned about the Niners. Again, I'll just continue to say it. It's all about injuries for this team. It's not confidence. It's not Super Bowl hangover, all that stuff of like being depressed. No, it's just that the team is hurt and that I think the defense is not playing to the level that it should be. And I think that falls on the defensive coaching, that falls on the players, that falls on perhaps they're too confident. I don't know. But I think the Niners should win against the Patriots, and we'll see this next stretch. They play the Cardinals and the Seahawks. I think if they can at least split in those two games because of their injuries, it would be tough to go 2-0. I will say that. If they go 2-0, that's fantastic in those games. But just a split, I'd feel decent about their chances for the rest of the year. But they definitely have to beat the Patriots. We'll see how that goes after that. But I still see them as a top 10 team. Even how they played against the Rams, like, they dominated. They were up like 21-7, and then they fell apart. Like, the defense couldn't make a critical stop. They missed a field goal. They allowed a big punt return. Every area of their team, they dropped passes, like 7 of them. And it was a fluky loss. Like, really. And they played a Vikings team in Minnesota that's playing unbelievable football right now. So I wouldn't overreact to these things. Again, that was a divisional game. So at number 9, the Niners. At number 8, the Ravens. The Ravens, and the reason I have them ahead of the Niners, they're 1-2. And both teams are 1-2, just, and they're in my top 10. It's because I think the Ravens are healthier, and I think if they played right now, the Ravens would probably win. And that's really the reason. But I like what I saw from Derrick Henry. I like what I saw from the run game. I thought that Lamar was efficient with what he had to do and the throws and the plays he had to make, which wasn't a lot through the passing game. Mark Andrews looks washed. They need to feature Isaiah Likely more. I'll continue to say that. Justice Hill looks good as a pass catcher out of the backfield. Defensively, I thought they looked good early, but then late they were getting shredded. So I think the Ravens are a flawed football team, once again, with like really fun offensive playmakers like Zay Flowers, Derrick Henry, Lamar's legs, right? They've got a good quarterback. They've got a good culture. They know how to win. They've got a good secondary. I kind of think they're decent there. But overall, you see the deficiencies on defense compared to last year. You see inconsistencies in the pass rush, which is why they signed Yannick Ngakoue. You see they're very good against the run, and they are a good running team. So that gives me hope that they can control games. But I think a lot of that also, I will say, is because they played the Cowboys, and the Cowboys are bad at stopping the run, and they're bad at running the ball. So I will say that. But at number 8, the Ravens, they still, I have enough faith in them as an organization, a franchise, a team, a quarterback, that they're a top 10 team. At number 7, the Houston Texans. They got shellacked by the Vikings. Definitely a tough defeat. I thought that, and this is what I meant, Vikings fans got all over me. I want to say her name's Sarah. I apologize. Is it Sarah? I apologize if it's not Sarah. I think it starts with an S. She's a longtime fan. She watches the channel all the time. I hope she's watching this video. So what I meant is not necessarily a negative for the Vikings, which we'll talk about the Vikings here in a second. It's a little bit about the Vikings, right? Just the common theme between them playing the Texans and the Niners is that they've been benefiting off of turnovers, which is generally fluky, and we'll get to that. But it's been consistent. Now, that being said, the Texans, I think, are playing very sloppy football. They are not playing to the level that they can play. And some people will say, well, the Texans look bad. Like I've heard Durkant and Ultra say this, that they're not as good as Mitch thinks. And that's fine if you take their play right now is how they're going to play for the rest of the year. But I don't look at it like that. I look at it as a team that's struggling with penalties. Penalties are generally fixable. I see a team that's struggling with sacks, struggling with, just small things like the offense, I feel like has not found consistent rhythm due to penalties, due to negative plays, due to Mixon being hurt, being back in the lineup, due to just like new elements of the offense, like Tank Dell coming back from injury, Stephon Diggs being newly signed, like chemistry there, things like that, like small things that I think are very fixable. When you start a game and you're on the road and you're playing a good opponent and you're playing a game script in which you have the ball first, the second play of the game, the ball gets batted at the line of scrimmage and they intercept it and they go up 7-0. And then you're constantly fighting from that position of being down and you're having to fight back uphill and you don't have your starting running back already, so you're already reluctant to run the ball. And you're playing Brian Flores and you're playing a team that's very, very good in those pure passing situations because their pass rush is so creative. Their pressure packages are so creative. And your one weakness right now is your O-line. And that is by far their biggest weakness on their team, their offensive line. Their D-line played well. I thought their defense didn't play bad. It had some spotty parts in the secondary. But honestly, like, the Texans, a lot of their flaws right now, I feel like, are them playing C+ ball when they could be playing A ball. They played a team that's playing A+ ball in the Vikings. They got exposed because they're playing C ball. So that's just what I see from the Texans. They're a talented team. They're 2-1. They're fine from a record standpoint. They're just not playing at their peak ability or even close to that. At number 6, the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles are at number 6. I apologize for my dogs screaming in the background, if you can hear that. The Philadelphia Eagles at number 6. I was very impressed with the Eagles being able to go into New Orleans, not an easy place to play, dictate the game. I was impressed with the roster. I was especially impressed with the defense. I thought Vic Fangio got his defense playing really hard, really physical football. I thought that their secondary did a good job. Quinyon Mitchell, great job on Rashid Shaheed. We knew Quinyon Mitchell here on the BLV was going to be an absolute stud. Looks like we called that one. Slay responded pretty well in that game. The D-line, I thought they set the edge. I thought they fundamentally played good defense. It was the first time I've seen the Eagles play fundamentally sound defense in like maybe more than half a season. It's been a long time, but I felt like they set the edge. They played like Belichick would coach, right? Set the edge, funnel everything inside against the zone, outside zone run, pressure the interior pocket of Derek Carr. They did the fundamentals of their game plan at a very high level. They ran the ball really well. Saquon hit big plays. Dallas Goedert had a phenomenal game. I think they honestly put out a plan, and this is a sign of a good team. They put out a plan against a team that previously looked really good, that previously showed no flaws, and they exposed what they're bad at, right? Like run defense, tight end defense. When you stop their run game, can they pass? So the Eagles, I think, really great performance. They've beaten the Packers with Jordan Love in a weird location, kind of a weird game in general, week 1. I give them credit for winning. Hurts has been up and down in a roller coaster. Nick Sirianni needs to get his head on straight. Week 2, they lose a game that they shouldn't have lost. So Eagles so far, given the state of the league right now, they look like a top team in the NFC. They look like an elite team right now. So at number 6, the Eagles. At number 5, I've got the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings are a little higher on other people's power rankings, maybe not as high on some others, but number 3 I've seen them in most, or number 4, and that's fine. They're undefeated, and they've beaten the Texans and the Niners, 2 teams that I'm very high on, especially when they're mostly healthy. And they've exposed those teams, like in terms of they've played really well, and they've been out in front, and they've been in the lead, and they've been dominating those teams. So that is definitely impressive. And they also beat a Giants team that easily could be 2-1. So their level of competition and how they've played against that level of competition is at a very high level, which is why I believe in this team right now, because of that exact thing. Now, do I think the Vikings are going to play at this level, which is my intent of what I've been saying for the rest of the year? No, probably not. Probably not. We've seen Sam Darnold play this well before at the beginning of seasons. It hasn't always lasted. The Vikings defense last year played at this level. Maybe not quite this high, but really darn good at the beginning of last year. And they fell off because teams kind of figured out a formula. So I think regression will come. But that being said, when you break down this team, this is a team that's legit because the coaching is there on offense and defense. Flores, best defensive coordinator, pure defensive coordinator in the sport. He gives them an edge in every matchup, especially against these Shanahan offenses, which is so prevalent right now, especially in the NFC, right? And you look at how he's confusing quarterbacks coming from that Belichick tree, right? You look at the defensive playmakers, the speed at which they're playing, the communication at which they're playing. They didn't have Ivan Pace in the game. They didn't have Dallas Turner in the game. They still dominated the Texans, and they were able to create so many different ways to create pressure on CJ Stroud, to force CJ Stroud to pull the ball down and get sacked or to hold the ball for that split second. Gilmore's playing great. Their safeties are playing great. There's one new guy that pops off the screen each and every week, right? Grugier Hill, Cashman, Jones, Metellus, Van Ginkel, Jonathan Grenard, 3 sacks last week. Just guys are popping left and right. They're a legitimate top-end defense right now. They're probably the second best defense in the sport right now at this moment. That's legit. Their offense might not be top 10, but it's darn good. And that's without all their pieces, right? Their O-line is playing well. They're running the ball way better than I would have expected with Jones and Chandler. They've got Justin Jefferson, arguably the best receiver in the sport, who just makes 1, 2, 3 amazing plays every game. Darnold is playing efficient, effective, accurate football. He's not turning it over too often. And Naylor's playing well. Once they get Hawkinson and Addison in there, the sky's the limit. O'Connell's doing his thing in the play calling, especially when it comes to high leverage scenarios, which he's always been so good at. That's why I believe in this team, because if Darnold continues to play average quarterback, they've got an elite defense, they've got a good O-line, they've got a good enough run game, they've got great weapons in the future. This is a team that could make the NFC divisional round, maybe even the NFC championship if everything reaches its ceiling. That's why I now believe in them at number 5, because they've gone out and they haven't just beaten. They haven't been like the Seahawks where they've bullied the Broncos, right? And the Dolphins with Skylar Thompson. No, they've beaten the NFC champs and the Houston Texans, 2 teams that I think are very good. So at number 5, the Vikings. At number 4, this is the team, though, I want to see their quarterback healthy. And this is crazy because I have 3 straight NFC North teams on these power rankings, guys, which just goes to show how good this division is and why I am not buying stock on the Caleb Williams Bears, because they have to go through these 3 teams. They have to play them 6 times, right? But the Packers look like, to me, a championship team, just in terms of when you're able to dominate opponents without your good, highly paid quarterback. That speaks to how good your team is. You can run the ball. You now find an extra layer to throw the ball for explosives. Christian Watson coming through this week, right? You can run it. You can throw it. You've got good O-line. You've got great D-line play this past week against Tennessee, a bunch of sacks. The Packers defense has gotten better with each and every game. And I feel like this is the team that in the NFC I would be most scared of. If Love is healthy and playing like he did last year, this is going to be a really complete team by the end of the season because their defense seems to now be getting it a little bit more. The week 1 didn't look good. Week 2, week 3, looking closer to the unit we thought had that potential because maybe they're starting to click a little bit. But they did play the Titans and the Colts, which aren't the best teams in the league. But they beat them with Malik Willis, which is huge. So at number 4, the Packers. The Vikings, the Packers play this week. We'll see how that goes. The game's in Green Bay. Green Bay is slightly favored, I think. So we'll see how it goes, but both these teams playing great football right now. At number 3, I have the Lions. The Lions beat the Rams in a tough game in week 1. Then they beat the Cardinals in Arizona, which I give them a ton of credit. This is kind of like a priors ranking to a certain degree with the Lions, where they've backed up their prior well enough. They were a top 5 team in my power rankings before the year. They're 2-1. The game that they lost, they doubled up the other team in yards. They just really sucked in terms of red zone offense and turnovers. And that's why they lost to a Bucs team that's good, right? So it's not like they lost to a terrible team. So I look at the Lions and I say, again, run game, powerful, dominant. They got back to their bread and butter. Their defense is playing really well. Their D-line is playing really well. They're probably the best run defense in football. And their secondary, I think, showed out this week after, like, in that second half, especially when they needed to stop the pass, they did it. So at number 3, the Lions. A big test coming up against the Seahawks, a team that has a lot of weapons at wide receiver. That is going to be a huge test for this new secondary of the Lions. I think that's a tough matchup for them. So we'll see how that really goes. And then the other side, Seattle's defense has been playing good football. So that's going to be a really good game. We'll find out how good the Lions truly are in that game. At number 2, I moved the Chiefs down to number 2, and I have an excuse now to put a different team at 1, because honestly, I haven't liked how the Chiefs have been playing. So I've been looking for a team to kind of be undefeated, give me a legitimate reason based on their level of performance and level of dominance to put a team above the Chiefs. The Chiefs have not played that well. They're 3-0. Now that speaks to the Chiefs are going to get better as the year goes on offense and likely on defense as well, although I think their defense is playing well already, so I'm not sure how much better they can get. But Mahomes doesn't look like himself. He is not playing that good. I thought against Atlanta he was right? Like average, nothing special. He was throwing it down the field a little bit more. And then their run game, I don't think they really missed Pacheco too much last week, but we'll see if that shows up in further weeks. Kelsey continues to be invisible to the point where Swifties are making film breakdown videos about him not getting the ball. Rashee Rice still looks fantastic. Xavier Worthy kind of looks like a gimmick player. Can Hollywood Brown come back and add an element to this offense? Because it feels like they're missing something. Defensively, they're good, they're solid, but I actually felt like Atlanta maybe exposed them the most out of all the opponents they've played so far on that side of the ball. Atlanta was able to run it, kind of stay balanced, stay out of those third down and longs that Spags loves, and they adequately protected Cousins to the degree where they could get the ball to Drake London out wide, and London and Mooney both had good games. That's not typical for the Chiefs secondary. Chiefs don't typically give up 60-plus yards to 2 different receivers, 7-plus catches to 2 different receivers. That usually does not happen. So that was a little bit surprising. But at number 2, I've got the Chiefs. They're 3-0. They're the champs. They still have come through in clutch areas and clutch moments. Honestly, though, like two PI calls that do or don't happen, they're 1-2. Against the Bengals, that play doesn't happen. They lose. Against the Falcons, if Pitts scores there or like they get the ball at the 1 yard line because of that PI, they might lose that game. So so that's just the way the NFL is, though. So you got to give them the credit for the wins, but you just also have to be aware of their performance. So at number 2, I have the Chiefs. At number 1, I think pretty clearly right now, the Bills are the best, most dominant team in football. And when you're doing power rankings, style points do matter, right? It's like rankings in college football. It's like style points matter. Beating a team by like 1,000 on Monday Night Football, and the way that Josh Allen is playing, the man looks unstoppable. Like he's easily the best player in the NFL right now. It's not even particularly close. The offense looks absolutely phenomenal. They're very balanced. They're running the ball well. Their O-line is protecting well. Shakir looks really tough to stop. Kincaid looks good. Curtis Samuel's used in creative ways. Coleman pops up every once in a while, right? They get Mac Hollins in the mix. Like they've got Davis, they've got Ty Johnson, they've got James Cook, 3 different running backs that are contributing. And then Allen, who's just a weapon in his own right. And Joe Brady has become, to me, like right now, a top 5 play caller in the league, the way he's humming. Defensively, they look absolutely phenomenal. A sign of a good defense is just like every time a team has a chance to kind of fight back into the game, they just don't let it happen. I think their cornerback duo, Douglas and Benford, is one of the top 3 in the sport right now. Their safeties, I haven't really seen anything to think that they're any worse at that spot. Their linebackers, they're missing one of their best players in Milano. They're missing one of their other biggest playmakers on defense, Bernard. They still step up. They play well with Williams and Spector there. Their D-line is probably the most underrated in the league. Von Miller's playing phenomenal. They got Daquan Jones, Ed Oliver, Greg Rousseau, AJ Epinesa, a great rotation. So, yeah, the Bills are the best team in the league. They honestly look like a team that they've heard all the noise this offseason, and maybe some unexpected things have happened with them where, you know, like Joe Brady's play calling. We thought it would be good, but we didn't think it would be this good. We thought that, you know, they would be able to persevere. I did. They would persevere through Stephon Diggs, but I didn't think it would click this fast. I thought they would actually be ascending down the stretch. I didn't think they would be this good in September, right? And then the defense, I thought would take a step back, but I didn't see Von Miller, you know, recovering from his injury so well and becoming Von Miller again, right? And then like that, how that has a trickle down effect on everything else. So yeah, at number 1, the Buffalo Bills, best team in the league right now. I don't think there's much debate. Gronk spike the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. It's Mitch. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next video. Deuces.